welcome to Bountiful. For those of you that are online, you're missing out on a really great visit to the city of Bountiful. Just to give you, I don't want to take too much time because we're starting just a little bit late while we were figuring out some technical issues. Bountiful was founded by Peregrine Sessions. So the mountains that you see behind our city hall are known as the Sessions Mountains. And one of our really cool new mountain bike trails is the Peregrine Trail. Forest Service thought we should spell it like the bird. We thought we should spell it like Peregrine, whose parents for some reason spelled it creatively in a very Utah fashion ahead of his time.
Definitely South Utah.
Yeah, very, very ahead of his time. But he's our founder. He moved his cattle just a little bit further north for better watering after arriving in the Salt Lake Valley. So we claim being the second oldest city in the state. Mayor Tran is not with us today. I know that her city likes to make that claim, but she's wrong and she's not here. So just let the record reflect the Bountiful is the second oldest city after our friends in Salt Lake. Population of about 45,000. Some of the things that we are working on and are proud of is, of course, as I mentioned, our trail system and our trails master plan. We have 3 new trails that will start construction this summer. I have taken Councilor Dugan and, of course, Mayor Troy Walker. Drayport serves as a great learning opportunity for us. If they've ridden our trails, anyone who would like to, I'm always happy to show off what we're doing here. On our trail system, we are a municipal power system city. Some of you share that in common with us, so that's one of our unique features as well. Other things that we are working on is a whole host of summer festivals. I know, like many of you, there's a lot of 250 events. Hopefully you noticed our 250 banners, because I think cities do a great job of borrowing from each other. We noticed Santa Clara had cool banners in their city hall, so we thought it would be a great idea to do something similar here in Bountiful as well. So welcome. I hope you enjoyed part of your afternoon here with us. And of course, it would not be a board meeting that I chaired if we did not start with a Would You Rather. I hope you are all prepared to open Slido, because it's also not a league meeting if we do not begin with opening Slido so that we can do a poll. And because America 250 has been so on my mind this summer with planning and with events, what I really want to know from you is, for the perfect America 250 summertime dessert, would you rather a classic rocket popsicle or a slice of apple pie? I'm making no determinations about whether they're paired with ice cream or with temperature or those things.
Where's Hot Fudge Sundae?
Mayor Burton, when West Jordan posts, you can put that on the slide.
Is it all in there? That may be a while. I'm not in the line.
And don't close it yet. Just make sure you restart and you can read all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Sitting out in the middle. Okay, some of you maybe did not enjoy rocket popsicles the same way I did as a child. Now I know where the 20% of my people are. Oh, 24. Yay. All right, well, we'll give that just a minute to finish. Hopefully this will help guide whatever decisions you are making about what you're serving at your July 5th potluck in your neighborhood. So with that, we'll return to our regular agenda. Oh, wait, sorry. We have one really important thing we have to do. It is the birthday of our first vice president, Councilor Krista Hinton. So she is spending her birthday not in Santa Clara, but up here in Bountiful. So if anyone wants to make a motion to sing her happy birthday.
I don't need a motion.
Let's
do it.
No, I heard a motion and I heard a second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Okay, we're doing it.
Ready?
Okay, ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
Krista.
Happy
birthday to you.
Woo!
It's great that you're now legally able to hold public office. Just made it. Just made it. Okay, now we'll return to the rest of the agenda. Has the board had an opportunity to review the minutes from our May 18th meeting? And is anyone prepared to make a motion about approval of the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the May 18th, 2026 board meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Dugan and a second from Mayor Walker. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Do we have any conflicts of interest disclosures that anyone needs to declare before we begin the rest of our agenda? Seeing none, and Nick, you may not see anyone's got a hand up online. Okay, we will then move on to the next item on our agenda, which is to discuss our fiscal year 27 tentative budget and to receive public comment for our tentative budget. Nick, are you planning to do an overview presentation before we open up the public hearing?
We were not. The presentation of the tentative budget was at the May 18th meeting. There are no changes for the hearing that we're having on. We will do a short presentation on any changes we have for the final budget adoption.
Okay. All right. Then with that, can I get a motion for us to open up a public hearing on our fiscal year 27 tentative
So moved,
budget?
Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion for Walker, a second for Councilman Hinton. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we will open up a public hearing for anyone who would like to offer public comment on the league's fiscal year 27 budget. Just by way of a reminder, we've adopted rules for our public hearing, and anyone who gives comment will be limited to 3 minutes. We ask that those comments be germane to the budget before us, and that they will state their name and where in the state of Utah they live. So with that, we invite any of the public to come and offer comment.
Get the noise up.
What's-
Get the noise up.
Yeah.
Mayor, your name again?
Aye. Burton.
Mayor Burton. I'm the reason why you asked last meeting why you're going to have parameters around public speaking, which is evident with the plethora of people who want to speak. My name is Ken Bullock. Our minutes are being recorded, is that correct? I was the executive director of the league for over 30 years. I built this organization from the ashes, and I care about its reputation and how it's run. I'm here to talk about 4 things related to the budget. Since I'm limited in time, I provided 3 of them in writing. Number 1, unless the league board changed the policy, Salt Lake City's dues were capped at around $180,000, not the $254 in your budget. This came at the request of Salt Lake City Council, and the league board approved this policy. For confirmation, you should contact Cindy Guzchenson, the former director of the Salt Lake City Council, and Neil Abercrombie from the governor's office. Number 2, I think it should be relevant that the league board establish regularly scheduled opportunities for the public to speak in league meetings. To date, you have 10 minutes in the course of the year on your budget for the public to speak. That seems highly irregular. I also would like the board to establish a policy prohibiting the league from lobbying on behalf of donors over $2,500. You have $400,000 you raise in your budget, and there are obvious conflicts. When I left the league, the staff included Meg Ryan, whom I hired to consult with small towns on land use questions. Among other things, Roger too was hired to consult with small towns on tax policies and tax issues. We had Dave Church, an exceptional attorney, to answer procedural and legal questions. Your executive director hired John Park to provide training for cities. When I left the league, I had established a baseline of $400,000 in donations, which you have maintained. I provided you with over $400,000 in the form of a trust to be spent on training. You spent approximately $500,000 or more on renovating a perfectly suitable office. You have raised dues over approximately $900,000 over the past few years. In addition, the league has hired a staff member to market and solicit donations. So why do you have the LAA program? Raising tax, small cities have the option, just like other cities. They can raise their taxes. They can contract with the county like they do with roads and public safety. They can contract with entities like the league does for legal services with your private entities. If they can't afford it, they should consider this incorporation. Your policy prism has 3 lines about.
Once you reach the end of your 3 minutes, just a few minutes or a few seconds to wrap up, please.
So when I'm introducing myself, that counted.
That counts. As soon as
Okay,
you say
let me just be very clear then. Your policy prism says, leave us alone, et cetera. It should say, leave us alone except when we want money. Your president mentioned last time that she has assurances from the legislative leadership that you'll get full funding for the LAA program. I have and will do everything that I can to prevent you from doing that. I think it is morally bankrupt to ask the state legislature for money that the league has been providing a service for the better part of 100 years when there are more extremely legitimate needs for the state to be funding. And Councilman Dugan, as my council member, you wrote a text last session regarding requesting the funding to be approved, and you stated that this was bad blood because someone didn't want it. No, I just wholeheartedly disagree. The league, that's what it's funded for.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to offer public comments? Please just state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Liam Threlkill and I live in Highland, Utah. I am a former league employee as well. I actually ran the local administrative advisor program, which I think pound for pound, dollar for dollar is probably the best investment the state has ever made. We have.
Sorry, resetting.
Yep, nope, we're good. I'll be shorter than 3 minutes. In my first year, there were over about 600 projects that were completed in over 100 different communities, and it's to an extent and to a point that the league had never been able to provide to rural Utah. Previously, we have members, I think, that are even on this board now that can speak to how that's gone above and beyond what's been provided in the past from the league. And then the other point I'd love to just quickly hit on is, in my years working there, we have never done any lobbying on behalf of any donors to the league. So at least nothing that I've ever seen in the years that I was there. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Threlkill. Is there anyone else that would like to offer public comment? Seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comment on the fiscal year tentative budget and move to the next item on the agenda, which is.
I'll make a motion to close the.
Okay, thank you, Seth. Seth has made a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second? Second, Councilor Dugan. All in favor of closing the public hearing,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, so it passes unanimously. I'm gonna just move us to item number 4, which includes review, consideration, and potential adoption of our fiscal year 27 budget. And I'm sure that there are some questions and or some comments that the board may have related to the budget, but let's allow our league staff the opportunity to just walk us through the budget, and of course the memo that was provided in the packet.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. You have in your packet a memo and slightly altered budget we're proposing as a final budget adoption. And the memo it details what elements have changed between that and the tentative budget that you adopted in May. We have unrestricted revenue reserve increased by to $170,000 from $114,000. That's a $56,000 increase. We have publications updates expense increased to $56,000 from $0. We have staff salaries expense increase to $1,385,000 from $1,380,000, a $5,000 increase. Also, a $5,000 increase to employee benefits expense from to $638,000 from $633,000, and then a contract labor decrease, and I do have a typo here, to $165,000 from $175,000, and that is a $10,000 decrease. So that was a decrease in contract labor to fund slight increases in staff salaries and employee benefits, as well as unrestricted revenue increase. The reasoning behind that is we are going to have publication expenses that we had budgeted for the end of this fiscal year in our publication update that we used reserves for in this calendar year, fiscal year. That will not happen until July. So that is basically, that money will be put to reserves, and we'll be taking more out of reserves to fund what we planned on this year and next year. The proposed FY27 personnel budget includes an organization-wide 2.5% cost of living adjustment, various market and merit increases and job duty adjustments, and a benefits increase through our cafeteria plan for full-time staff. The board president conducted the executive director's annual review, and the board officers are recommending a 2.5 merit increase for the executive director, which, according to contract, must be approved by the board as part of this budgeting process. This is also accounted for in the proposed final budget. We have published notice of this hearing of the FY27 tentative budget on the public notice website. And it has been available on the public notice website as well as our website, and public information handouts are available in the back with the tentative budget. We would now ask the board to take action to approve the proposed final 2027 budget and executive director merit increase following the public hearing we just had.
Okay, board members, you've had an opportunity to hear and review the budget in our meeting last month, and you've received in your packet. Does anyone have any questions for our staff about the budget that is before us? Okay, I don't see any questions. Is there anyone who has any comments or feedback they'd like to offer, or any of our public comment?
I think I'll just make a comment. As I've reviewed the budget and worked through the issues associated with it, I think it's in line with how I see the operations of my individual city in terms of employee pay and also in terms of growth and operations of the league. It's not without its growth pressures as well. I think back over the last 10 years or so since I've been the city manager of Spanish Fort, the number of bills that we face. So I'm really comfortable with the process that we followed and the different elements of the budget, especially those as it relates to the employees.
Thank you, Seth. Yes, your
I'll
comment.
speak to the LAA discussion here. I'm pretty new to this, right? But I'm from a big town now, bigger city now, but grew up in rural Utah. I had the privilege of traveling to CAM this year to a couple of small areas where they rely on the LAA. it might be, in my opinion, it's a little misguided that like this is the state there's been so many bills passed in the cities. The LAA is supporting those cities, in my opinion. We administer it, but it is supporting bills that have been passed by the state legislature. We are administering it, yes. It's been an added task from the state. That's why the state is funding this. We're trying to support the rural towns and their planning efforts and their growth, all the efforts to support the growth happening in our state. It is a new program that didn't exist for sure, absolutely. But that program, those cities, those towns in rural Utah rely on this. They're more efficient than ever before. They're able to keep up on all the laws, the things that they could not get done. The money I guarantee the money that's being spent by the state has been more than recuperated from other grants, from other funding sources. They would have lost had they not had the resources to support them. So 100% support the LNA, support what we do with this, support our staff. I think every one of us we all sit on our own city budgets. We just finished our budgets. We, of course, analyze the fee that we pay to the league. And it's absolutely, we 100% support every year the fee that we feel like we get more than for the fee that we pay. So I just want to thank everybody here on our staff that every year there's more asked of you. So thank you for what you do. So.
Thank you. Any other comments?
We have Mayor Wright online as well.
Okay, we'll go to Mayor Witch and then we'll go to Eric.
I would just like to echo what Mayor Palmer said. Being one of the representatives from a very small community, and there are other communities that surround mine that have even fewer staff, part-time people a couple times a week, and it has been such incredible benefit for the small communities to have that program. I'm grateful to 20 years in the school. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have comments online.
Yes, this is Mayor Wright from Torrey. I just want to reemphasize what I said to the state legislature last summer. I cannot do right by the people of Torrey and Wayne County without the LAA program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor.
I would just like to echo Mayor Palmer's sentiments as well. I think the LA has been invaluable. The ROI on that investment by the state is large and demonstrable. We've seen that. We've talked about it a lot. So I appreciate that we have that opportunity to help the cities with smaller staff be successful. So, sorry, I'm so quiet. Yay, LLA is what I said.
I just wanted to say my appreciation to the staff for the deliberation of the budget and the thoughtfulness that went into it and the programs that we have going on with the league across the board. Going down to St. George for the convention down there, convention here, all the work that's across the board that the staff does. I appreciate it so much. But I also appreciate the way they're very thoughtful about our money and our city's money, but also our city's work. So my hats off to the staff for their great work.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Just one more, sorry. On the LA program, I think it speaks to the growth and evolution and perhaps the foundation, of course, of the league, the services that we've provided, historically speaking. I think a natural growth was this LA program, because as the city gets more, as the state rather, gets more and more complex, right? The different number of bills that happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the number of bills, the types of bills, and the issues were not as complex as they are today. The development community, and the bills that run there, the residents and the challenges that they face, water issues, and so on. And so I think what we have done as a league, historically speaking, and what we're offering it, in one element with the LAA program, is a natural growth. And I think it's a great program that speaks to what we have done and what we're continuing to do, paying attention to the needs of our members, paying attention to the needs of cities as they get created and as they incorporate, et cetera. So I love that we've been able to look at the needs and evolve, responding to those. And I think the LA program, working with the state, and I think the state seeing, you big cities, or however you define an established city that has staff, you might be doing it okay, but these smaller cities can have this help. I think it's a great program, and I love that it's built on our history and allows us to have evolved, and I think we did a great job in all of it.
Anyone else? All right, I'll take this moment then to just offer some thoughts that I have as well. We've talked about before that the strength of the league is its members. And our members come in all different shapes and sizes, from big cities to medium cities to small cities. Some of us are resort cities, some of us are rural cities, some of us are capital cities, some of us are lovely suburbs, just to the north of the capital city. But the strength comes from the fact that we have a great diversity of experiences, but also tremendous willingness to pull together to make sure that we're doing this important frontline work that local government does. And in serving on this board and in serving on the executive committee the past few years and serving as this role for the past several months, I get to have quite an inside look at what our operations are and how our staff engages. And thanks to my day job, I get to have spent many, many years with many of our league staff. So I get to see them as a peer in terms of that professional capacity. I'm proud of the work they do. I'm proud of the way we engage. And I'm proud of the way we stand up for our fellow cities, even sometimes when it's not in our direct interest. There have been numerous times that the legislature has, for whatever reason, decided they aren't happy with things our capital cities do. And the league has stood to push back and to point to our principles and to point to good governance and be part of that effort there. There have been times where we have needed to help our smaller rural communities, and the LAA program is that response. During the 25 legislative session, Mayor Walker and I were at the Capitol with league staff responding when the legislature, in my opinion, in a misguided way, decided to pull some of that funding because of, in my opinion, again, of bad information that they had received from the program. And I was grateful that with all of you, with great advocacy from many of you that represent rural communities, and many of you like me who will never, ever, ever get to take advantage of the LAA program because my city is too big, have put tremendous time and resources to helping educate and restore that funding. I have confidence that if it appears in a legislative bill that it is going to happen, and the funding will fully come our way. So I think it's unfortunate that those who were once engaged with us in this work don't see the value of this program. My hope is that perhaps they'll spend some time talking with some of those rural communities that I and others of you have had the opportunity to see the value of this program. I'm happy to recommend this budget, happy to recommend all elements of it, having spent significant time with our staff to do so. So that is what I would have to say about the budget and any particulars in it. So with that, if there's no one else that would like to offer any comments from the board, we will move to consideration and adoption of the fiscal year 27 budget and the accompanying budget resolution.
And the executive director merit increase.
And, of course, included therein the executive director merit increase, which, again, I strongly recommend. We had an excellent session. Our executive director was a key part of our success this legislative session. So,
Madam Chair, so moved that we approve the budget and
Second.
the merit increase
And the resolution.
and the resolution.
and the resolutions. We have a motion from Mayor Walker, and I think I heard Councilor Egbert with a second. Actually, I heard several seconds, but I'm
So many seconds.
It's the second.
Is
Thirds,
there-
fourths, and fifths.
Is there any further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Where are we at on the agenda?
Looks like that passes unanimously. Thank you for everyone's hard work on that item. We'll move on then in our agenda to item number 5, which is to consider ULCT boards and commissions reports and appointments. And Alexa is going to talk to us about that.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I have 3 items for you today, an update, a discussion item, and then an action item. So you might remember from our last board meeting, I updated you on our current ULCT's current representation on the Utah Communications Authority Board. As a reminder, our current representatives on the board are Ogden City Administrator Mara Brown and St. George Government Affairs Director Sean Guzman. Both Mara and Sean are moving on from their roles at their respective cities at the end of the month. Both Mara and Sean have indicated an interest to continue serving on the board until their terms end in 2027 and 2028. Nothing in state law precludes them from serving even after they've retired. And in fact, many of the representatives on the Utah Communications Authority Board now are retired officials from whatever sector they represent. This is likely in part because state law does preclude current users of the 911 system from serving on the board. So we've interpreted this to mean individuals whose day jobs are in direct contact with the 911 system. So all of that is to say, in conversations that we've had with cities in the past month since the last board meeting, we've received a few requests for our representatives on the UCA board to be actively involved in the day-to-day operations of the city. So that leads us to the question that we have for you today and would love to get your feedback on, is whether it's important to you as the board that our UCA representatives are currently employed by a city. And we'll take our next steps based on that feedback. So I'd love to hear from you.
Board members, any feedback for Alexa on this matter? I have some, and we'll maybe kick off some thoughts. I think that Sean and Mara have done a tremendous job serving. They have served us in many capacities over the years, representing municipalities and different boards, and they have a depth of expertise in that's fantastic. I do think that this is a really critical board, especially where we have moved to consolidate PSAPs up and down the state. And so I think having representatives that are directly employed, W-2 type employment with cities is really key. And in that representation going forward. So that would be my recommendation and suggestion. I also, in diving into this a little bit, I have found it odd that the legislature has precluded anyone actively reserving services from serving on this board. This is, I know enough about dispatch to just be incredibly dangerous. To me, this is a very important technical area where a director of a dispatch center makes a lot of sense to have representing us, and so it may be something where we want to entertain in the future, asking the legislature to think about that policy so that we can have people who are very hands-on, especially as that knowledge base becomes more consolidated with consolidation of PSAPs. So that would be my suggestion of been involved just enough to be slightly dangerous about dispatch.
Do you recommend they continue?
I'm not recommending they continue because they're both retiring and would no longer be W-2 employees of either St. George or Ogden.
Who would qualify now? I'm just, because I thought about that too. Who else? It can't be as. Alexis, mind if I jump in?
Yeah, please.
So the question, who qualifies? It's basically, there's a disqualification that you can't be a direct user of the system of 911 system. A step removed from that, though, you're fine. The line is not a bright line, but if you're a direct user of the system, you would not qualify. But city attorney is fine, city manager, an elected official, there's nothing that says it couldn't be any of those.
In your opinion? Or
Is what too close?
a chief of police?
A chief of police is too close, yeah.
But a city manager, a city attorney.
City manager, city attorney, an elected official, there's nothing that says it can't be a city council member or a mayor.
How long do I have to go without dialing 911 before I'm not considered a direct user?
If you're calling in every day, I don't know if that disqualifies or not. But we might have to have some discussions.
It might be helpful that the board has, at the very least, maybe an ex officio, like let's get some of our city members there that are users, not on the board, but that we offer up. Like to your point of, how do we change it? Because I agree with you. I think having some users in the room would be really helpful in those discussions.
I guess if I can jump in again, whoever I'm asking, Mayor.
Please, Justin.
I was going to ask Alexa, and I'm like, that's who I usually ask if I can do things.
Jump away.
There is also, and it's important to know, there is an advisory committee to the UCA, and that is made up of some users. So there is a group there trying to give some input. The advisory committee doesn't bind anything. There's not a binding vote from that. The executive director can listen to their feedback and then do with it what they will. So there is something built in where they're trying to get feedback from those users, but it's not the exact same as the board who actually votes on what they're going to do. I will say that I've had conversations with several of your cities, with some of your chiefs and some of your other people, some of your 911 operators, and there are concerns that there are concerns that are not being heard. And sometimes when you don't have those people in the room who can raise the concerns, and even if you just know enough to be dangerous, one of the things we've asked many of those people is, what should we be looking for? And oftentimes it is just someone who will ask the questions. Why are we doing this? Why does this make sense? Is this something that works for us? Have we heard from the users? So I would back up what you said, Mayor, that there are many people who would like to see a little bit more input on those boards. The other board members currently are oftentimes retired folks, whether they're retired county commissioners, retired legislators, or people who may have been a user, but it's been a minute and the technology has been updated. So I would say from the users that I have talked to, I would say it matches that they would like to see some change.
How often does this board meet?
They meet, so they're meeting in August again, so they'll meet on August 12th. They meet about every couple of months, sometimes a little more often, but
So quarterly?
I'd say more like bi-monthly. I think about 6 times a year is pretty normal.
And I think the discussion is great. I want us to have it. I think what Alexa is looking for first and foremost in direction is, do we want the people we are sending to represent cities to be directly employed with the city, a W-2 employee, or
We're not picking somebody yet.
yeah,
We're just-
Correct.
we're not picking somebody, we're giving direction on just kind of this first step of how connected to cities should these people we send, and then
Then we
and
roll
then,
it.
and then we will go look for people that,
Correct.
that meet whatever we're setting. So just to set your expectations. And because I can see Alexa's head going,
Thank you, Mayor Bradshaw.
One piece of that as well.
please, and then we'll go over here.
Yeah, Sean and Mayor have been terrific. They both have a lot of extensive background in this space. It's just a unique opportunity that they are both leaving their current positions at the same time, and that's why we thought it warranted having this bigger conversation. So it's not about those two in particular, and I've spoken with both of them to chat about the fact that their terms are up in 1 year and 2 years. Does it make sense to continue them, or does it make sense to take a step back? The second thing you've noticed, these are gubernatorial appointments. In statute, we as a league send names, so this board sent those 2 names previously, along with other names, because the governor always asks for 2 names for every 1 spot that the board, or that the governor actually nominates. So if this board feels like, hey, at this point, it's a good time to maybe reset how we're engaging with the UCA, we would then need to ask Sean and Mara, as they're stepping down from their current positions, to then also step down from UCA to create a gubernatorial vacancy, that then we would recommend names for the governor at an upcoming meeting.
So you're saying not to continue through 2027?
Correct. So yeah, ultimately, the quick is, should Sean and Mara step down this summer, and we recommend 2 other names to the governor to appoint, is kind of the question we're asking.
Right now, 'cause I want to just ask a policy question first, and then we can come back later with names.
And then Councilor Egbert had a comment/question.
I have a statement to second your statement,
Okay.
that I support the principle that the board representatives are either employed or elected positions within cities.
Any other thoughts or comments? And I don't want to leave out our board members that are online, if any of them have thoughts or feedback for us.
No hands
You guys
or
see
chat.
Shepherd shaking his head. Do you feel like what you need, Alexa, or did you need to make that form of a motion for you?
I was just thinking that same. Well, I guess a motion would make it really clean. Should we look for new representatives to the UCA board? However we want to make that motion.
I make a motion that yes, we do.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Thank you for cleaning up my statement.
So we have a
Double
motion
yes.
from Mayor Palmer. We have a second from Councilor Egbert. Any further discussion or clarification needed? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none? I feel like you got the direction you like.
I do, yes.
Okay.
Everyone for the feedback. In the meantime, if you have anyone that you think would be a great representative for the Utah Communications Authority Board, please let me know, and we'll come back with recommendations at the August meeting.
Yeah, I just to say what Alexa just said, but and if any of you are perhaps interested, it doesn't again. If you have someone in your city, that's great. If you want to volunteer them, that this would be a good thing for them to do. But also, if someone on our own board is interested, that's something that we could certainly discuss, as that would give us some direct feedback to this board from the other board. So, like Lex said, we'll come back in August, but if you yourself have interest or someone in your city, please send them our way.
Okay. Alexa, do you want to talk about the other items in your staff
I
memo?
would love to, yes. I'm going to jump down to the third item because the second item is an action item and I want that to be fresh in your minds when you take action. So just an update on the Joint Highway Committee. So you as the Board of Directors are responsible for appointing 15 regional and at-large representatives to the JHC. Thank you. Huge shout out to Councilmember Shumway, not only for her participation on the JHC, but also making sure that we're staying on top of things and ensuring that we're maximizing our representation on this board. So we have staff have identified 6 vacancies on the Joint Highway Committee that need to be filled. And we've already lined up individuals for several of these, so we have people in mind, but we will come back at our August board meeting and make recommendations to make those 6 appointments. 2 of the appointments that we have not discussed with anyone yet or haven't identified any potential volunteers for. One is an at-large appointment, so if there's anyone from your city or if any of you are interested in serving on the Joint Highway Committee, please let me know. And then the other vacancy is a seat dedicated specifically to someone from Carbon, Emery, Grand, or San Juan County. So especially those counties, but all of you, if there's anyone that you could think of that would be a good fit, please let me know and we'll come back in August with recommendations for that committee too.
Can I ask you a question on something?
Please.
Do you want or do you want people who perhaps are like directors of streets department?
It could be either. Typically, it's going to be staff that is on the Joint Highway Committee. It's more staff members than elected officials, but it could be anyone that's interested and has some knowledge about the area. Yep. Exactly, yeah, lots of public works directors on there, but of course elected officials as well. So thanks for the question.
Twice a year.
Yeah.
So, but it is during our conference, so I do miss it.
So fun. Yes, and they meet again in September as well, I should have mentioned. So we'll be making these appointments at the August board meeting so that we have a full roster for September. Great.
Thank you.
Perfect. And then my last item, so at our June LPC meeting, we announced as staff an opportunity for elected officials from 10 counties to serve on their county's outdoor recreation initiative Regional Recreation Ranking Council. I got that right. So those councils, yeah, long name. Those councils are a very important step in the outdoor recreation funding process as they'll review project applications within their region, rank those projects, and then submit those rankings to the Outdoor Adventure Commission, who's ultimately responsible for making funding decisions for those outdoor councils. And so since June 1st, we've been soliciting volunteers to serve on these outdoor recreation councils. So we're recommending as staff that you appoint the following individuals to their respective regional recreation councils. So first, Brigham City Mayor DJ Bott as a Box Elder County representative to the Northern Regional Recreation Council. And then Salt Lake City Council Member Dan Dugan as a Salt Lake County representative to the Wasatch Front Regional Council. And then Ogden Mayor Ben Nadolski as a Weber County representative, also to the Wasatch Front Regional Recreation Council. Green River Council Member Guy Webster as an Emery County representative to the Eastern Regional Council. And then a to-be-determined Salina Council Member as a Sevier County representative on the Central Regional Recreation Council. Just so you're aware, Salina gave us two council members that are interested, and so we're waiting to hear back on their preferred candidate. So I'm happy to answer any questions about those. I know it was a mouthful, but just asking for you to appoint those 5 individuals to those 4 councils.
Okay. I happen to serve on the Wasatch Front Ranking Council and help represent the legal and Councilor Hinton on the Outdoor Adventure Commission. It is a fun time, and I look forward to, there was a couple names from the board that will be joining me on the Wasatch Front Committee. We had a meeting last week, lots of great planning taking place, so I will just add a thumbs up that this is a fun and interesting way to engage in outdoor recreation planning. Any other comments, questions about the names that have been proposed? I'm sure other ranking councils besides the Wasatch Front one are also equally awesome.
Sure.
All right. In that case, I think we need a motion to recommend those names. Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Mayor Palmer and a second I saw from Mayor Witch. Actually, I saw her waving her hand. I think they're both recommending you. So
That's good. Thank you.
yeah. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like that passes unanimously, and look forward to some new friends on that ranking committee.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, that takes care of item number 5, so we will be moving on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is our executive director report. Hey, it's nice that we moved this up so that you don't have to do this and promise us that you can do this in 30 seconds.
And in this case, per our constitution and bylaws, we have to do this at the June meeting, so that's why we moved it up to make sure it got done at the June meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the presidential city of Bountiful today. And this is the formal announcement in the board, and we will also announce it through upcoming Friday facts of the upcoming board vacancies after the annual convention. So when the membership a few years ago changed the constitution, expanded the board from 16 to 21, we created those additional board spots, also elevated the UCMA representative, who is Seth, to being a league officer, which is the 4-year term. So the 4-year terms, you can see, will have a vacancy because we'll elect a second vice president this fall. The first vice president, Mayor Palmer, will chair the nominations committee, and we will be putting together that nominations committee later this summer in accordance with the Constitution and the bylaws. We appreciate all the feedback you gave us in St. George during our strategic session of ways that we can improve that process and improve the communication. The good news is, every year that I've been director, we've had at least 3 and sometimes up to 5 times the number of applicants as we've had available spots. So every year, the first vice president has her or his work cut out for them. So Mayor Palmer, thank you in advance for chairing that. Also, for the feedback you gave us, we'll continue with the hybrid approach that we've been doing the last few years with the combination of the multiple Zoom meetings and then the final deliberation as part of the annual convention. Because the annual convention is happening the end of October, we have a little more of a runway in the summertime than we normally do, and so when the materials come out, the deadlines will reflect that additional runway. If you see your name highlighted in blue or in gold, that means your term is up at the end of this year, which ends at the annual convention. If your name is not in blue or gold, then you have an additional year, or in the case of the officers, through the rest of your term. So I'll just make sure you are aware. You are welcome to reapply for the board, and then we'll be building out the nominations committee, again, per your feedback, of a combination of former board members, current board members, and people who've never been on the board, and then having the geographic diversity and size city diversity from across the state. So this is that official notice. We'll have more information in upcoming Friday facts. Any questions about nominations process or next steps here? Nick, as the staff person responsible for nominations committee, anything else you want to add?
Just very quickly, we'll also be announcing, along with the vacancies for the board being in Friday Facts, we will also officially announce to general membership and here that the nominations committee is now open. So anyone who wants to solicit wants to participate on the nominations committee, now is the time they can start to let us know. And then color coding on there, blue means it's a vacancy, yellow means it's a vacancy we have to fill, specifically in this case with someone from area 8, and the 7 in blue would be quote unquote at-large positions. So we have everything else filled through someone who is not undergoing a vacancy this year that we need to have on our board, such as area representation, 2 from a first or second class city and a town. So that's kind of the lay of the land currently.
One last note on the nominations committee, again, based on the feedback you gave us in April, we intend to have a nominations committee that does not have anyone on the nominations committee who has someone from their city running for the board. We did not codify that in the bylaws for your feedback. People like that as a best practice, but recognizing there may be times where just due to just logistics, we need to be able to have that flexibility, but that's worked really well for us for the last few years, is to keep the nominations membership separate from anybody who's applying. It also means that we have to close the application process before we can open the nominations process, so we can make sure those lists align. So just watch for information via Friday Facts, and then we'll follow up with each of the board members to confirm with you if you're interested in running again. We ran into that issue a couple of years ago where a board member intended to run again and just missed the deadline, and there were some hard feelings. So we want to make sure everybody's clear on what the next steps are. Okay.
Any questions? I will say, if you are not up and you have never served on the nominating committee before, it's a really interesting and helpful experience.
We should do it
I
this
have done
way.
it twice. So
It's hazing.
yeah, well, I mean, I technically done it 3 times because I got to chair it one year. So that's also a fun experience. No, everyone needs to opportunity. But serving on the nominating committee, I think, is a really interesting way to just learn and meet new people and people who have lots of great backgrounds. So if your name's not in blue or in gold, think about whether that's something you can fit into your schedule. Any other discussion, questions about that item? Okay, you're all
Hold on, can I just add one thing? Can we add, I know you've got a few ex officios here. Can we add Mayor Walker to that list as well?
Come October.
Come October?
Yes.
Yes, I'm just saying it doesn't show in, but I would love to have him still.
Yeah,
Yep.
so he's still an officer until October, and then he will slide over to ex officio.
Okay.
That he gets to pick and choose if he wants to come to meetings or not. I had this very conversation with Mayor Ramsey actually last week. She said, yeah, I looked at the agenda, I have to go to this other event. We're an ex officio.
Okay. Yeah, so we will look forward to, we're never going to lose Troy. We'll make him come meet us. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, everyone's appropriately noticed then. Okay.
Okay.
Now we'll jump over to, if you have nothing else in the executive director's report you want to cover?
Did
You're
you?
going to cover the other stuff in advocacy.
Yes.
Okay. I
We
just
had-
was so
we had to check
excited
that
that you're
box.
further
We
up.
had to check the box.
Okay. And we're only like 2 minutes behind schedule. Molly, you were up to talk to us about engagement and annual convention and LAA and property tax and engagement. What are you?
Homeless.
Thank you. And not homelessness, actually.
What?
I know.
How are you?
I know.
Also an advocacy.
And I'm going to have a few of our teammates join me for this one. So first with the Salt Palace, as I'm sure you are aware, we've been discussing it. The Salt Palace is going to be closing temporarily as they make renovations in preparation of the 2034 Olympics.
They make an exception for the league to still meet.
Oddly, no. They are not making an exception that they will halt construction and have a space ready for us to hold annual each year. And because of that, and a lot of the feedback that you all gave us during our April board meeting about the strategic discussion around annual, the feedback was to really find a venue that could accommodate annual in its current footprint. And Katie has been working really hard and touring a lot of sites to accomplish that. I want to flag for the board that we are really just looking at temporary solutions. We're not making a permanent call on anything. And in fact, we're not really even making a call today. We can't sign any contracts yet. We just wanted to give you an update on how this process has unfolded and give you our staff recommendation. And so with that, I will hand it over to Katie Harley.
Yeah. So I went north, south, east, west to look at venues from Ogden down to Provo. There were some venues that did not fit our requirements. There are some that just don't have availability and others that are just no longer available for us. In April, the board directed to keep the annual convention footprint the same that we've been doing the last few years. And with that direction, the ideal host would be Provo's Utah Valley Convention Center or Sandy's Mountain America Expo Center. Both are great venues that can fit an exhibit hall, a general session, and has space for workshops and our miscellaneous meetings that we host during the conference. After touring these venues and the dates that they have available, the staff recommendation would be hosting the annual convention at the Mountain America Expo Center. The current date they have is September 28th to the 30th, so that would be our option one. Unfortunately, we are not able to do any booking until August. They have a requirement that's a 13-month window, so we would have to wait, and that could potentially become unavailable. And if it does, our second and third option would be the Utah Valley Convention Center for October 4th to the 6th, or Mountain America Expo Center, October 12th to the 14th, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much for your work going up and down, looking for locations that make sense. Any clarifying questions anyone wants to ask about Convention Center?
Have you considered just renting a gigantic tent?
What was the second for show in Sandy? Is that what you have in mind?
That's it.
I know what you found now. Like a circus that came through. I took the big.
Oh, 2020.
Yes.
Look at that.
And
Thank you.
of course, our sympathies and apologies to our friends at Salt Lake that we will not be able to be in the capital city for our annual until it's all houses.
Well, and Mary, to that end, I think this is just an important thing to know. For as long as Roger, me, and others have been around, the annual convention's always been in Salt Lake. You as a board, per the Constitution bylaws, set that location, so that's why we're bringing it back to you. And we looked at every possible option, met with staff in the city, asking for additional ideas, looking at other options in Salt Lake. Historically used the Sheraton Hotel. That hotel no longer exists. It's being converted into housing. Obviously, we've used the South Palace. It'll be under the knife for several years. The Grand America would have sufficient space, but it's both cost prohibitive, and I think there's a perception issue of having a publicly funded event at a facility like the Grand America. Great facility, but for us, didn't make a lot of sense. We discussed potentially using campuses of higher ed. We looked at the new Hyatt Hotel. It was unavailable throughout the fall of 2027. So we looked at other options to keep that historic Preston going, but in light of the construction and other things, it opened up the door to say, let's look at other facilities. And so we, as Katie said, she shared them all with me. We looked at St. George again. We looked at Lakeland. We looked at the Wasatch Back. We looked at Ogden. We looked at basically every facility in the state and whether they could work. And that's where, as staff, narrowed it down to these two. We felt checked all the boxes appropriately. We can't make a decision today, but we wanted to report back before we do have to make a decision later this month.
Okay, any other questions, feedback?
We shouldn't feel picked on. I mean, the whole place is closing down.
I am certain there are a number of different conferences and conventions that are also looking for other places. I know this is impactful to Salt Lake. I mean, this will have a great benefit to have a remodeled facility and have space reconfigured, but it certainly, I'm sure, will be painful for Salt Lake for a couple of years to see some of these events leave downtown, just for a little while until the Olympics. So you need thumbs up for us, or just purely
Just information.
just information? Yep. Everyone feel like they are informed. Okay.
Marvelous. I'd love to inform you some more. Local administrative advisor. We have an update on that. That's obviously been a topic of conversation for today's meeting. As we discussed, the funding was restored. That was previously cut, that $500,000. $380,000 goes to the league. We spend that money and are negotiating the contract with GOPB now to spend on 4 things. We spend that on an FTE, on our expert pool, as well as with our reimbursements to the AOGs. We partner really heavily with the AOGs on this. That's where the bulk of the money goes in this program. And then for travel, conferences, professional development, and those sorts of expenses. I wanted to just flag for everyone a few highlights of the program over this last year. My favorite came from when we were actually testifying on the Hill during the session to get the funding restored. Travis Keel, who's the executive director, of R6 spoke about how he has been the Central Utah AOG director for almost 20 years, and that no program has ever existed in the state that has been so as impactful for rural Utah as this program. And it is because it provides hands-on technical assistance. We as the league do a lot of training, we do a lot of consultation, we do provide a lot of resources to rural Utah, as we do all of Utah, but this really just allows us to get a little bit deeper and really help get projects across the finish line in partnership with the AOGs, and so we've been really grateful for that, and hearing that someone who is working with these communities every day say that this is hands down the best program that's existed in 18 years is pretty remarkable accolades. Second, we are continuing to explore how we can continue to partner with ACEC, that is the American Council of Engineering Companies. Pretty much none of these communities have an engineer on staff. They all consult with these engineering companies. And they reached out to us last year essentially saying, we're noticing a really big knowledge gap with some of these communities, and at times we almost don't know how to help them because there's just so much that we want to do, and some of them don't even have experience like writing an RFP so that we could respond to it and help them with a road project. And so nothing is finalized yet, but we're continuing to explore how we can partner with them to provide some better engineering resources to rural Utah. And then finally, we've been saying this, as far as our knowledge, is kind of the first of its kind in the nation, and we have had a lot of other state leagues from around the country either implement somewhat similar technical assistance models or look at doing a similar expansion, which I think, again, is very high praise of this program. So again, nothing for you to vote on, no decisions to make, but just some updates for you there. We are anticipating that that contract will go into effect at the beginning of the new fiscal year, and we're really looking forward to it.
Yes.
I just want to thank Molly and McKenna Marchant, who's our LA coordinator, and the associations of government around the state, and the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, and the legislature. The partnership has been phenomenal, and so I just want to publicly thank the AOGs for the great partnership. They're the ones whose employees funded through this program are doing the technical assistance. Mm-hmm. We provide the administrative support, they provide the technical assistance.
Yep. Excellent. Jumping on down, property tax. So a few things on property tax, and one will also delve a little bit into advocacy as well. So if I could get Alexa on deck to talk about the property tax updates. So based on the conversations we had, we launched our property tax education series, and I'd love to have Cassidy chat a little bit about that, and then Alexa provide a quick update on just what we know about communities going through property tax this next year.
Great. So when we're talking about property tax resources, we're really talking about kind of two different buckets. So the first bucket is our compliance resources. So this is for our cities to go through and see, okay, what are the new changes we have to comply by? And we have a whole page. And a really big shout out to Alexa, Carrie Nakamura, and then the rest of the ULCT team. Yeah, okay, on that. So far on our compliance page, we have over 1,100 views, so we know that people are coming back and using that those resources as we go through the process. And we also have over 121 views on our webinar that Carrie did, and this is on top of our mid-year workshop that we had that also had a lot of people in the room. As far as our communication resources go, we have finished out 8 total videos that our members can use to communicate with the public. Collectively, I know we have over 2,000 views on all of these videos. I'm going to tell you it's probably higher because a lot of our cities are choosing to host these videos. So we have a Dropbox for them that they can download the videos themselves and then post it kind of on their own timeline versus just using our YouTube video. So something I want to do after the property tax season is over is get a report back from those communities. I know of at least 10 communities that have been using our videos regularly. And then as we look forward to the future, the nice thing about this resource is that we'll continue to use it in future years. So we're hoping to build out kind of a toolkit to help create suggestions of like, here's how you can use this video, when in the timeline that you should be posting it as you're going through property tax, and a few things like that.
Yeah, just a quick update too. We've also been doing tracking behind the scenes to monitor communities that are going through truth and taxation. We've had a few drop out recently, so our number now is 60 communities that are, or 60 municipalities, I should say, that are going through truth and taxation this year. Now we have the universe mapped out as today, June 22nd, was, well, it has to be before June 22nd, but the deadline to adopt your tax levy that exceeds the certified tax rate to generate that additional revenue. But we've collected property tax impact schedules from all 60 communities that are going through truth and taxation. And if you'll remember that those impact schedules were required new as of this year to tell your story of what the property tax increase is used for and how much additional revenue it will generate. So we'll continue collecting those as they're updated. If your community updates their property tax impact schedule, please send it to me. You'll save me from going through your city council meeting minutes, which that's okay, I'll do it anyways. But yeah, so we'll stay on top of those. And the idea is to be able to use that information that we gather from those impact schedules to tell like the collective city story of why cities are going through property tax up at the legislature. One thing that I've been going through and doing is identifying what common themes are coming from the uses of the additional property tax revenue. And almost every community is in some way raising property taxes because of public safety costs or because of inflationary costs. So we'll continue tracking those and be able to tell our story once the process is wrapped up.
Thank you. These resources have really been great. I'm not one of the cities doing a truth and taxation hearing, but the fire district that my city is a part of is, and I have been forwarding all of your resources, in particular the checklists, to them, because I think these are the only resources that are out there, frankly. And so whether you're a city or a county or a special district of some kind, these have been really timely resources to get out there with the new state law. So thank you for putting those together, not just for cities to use, but for the other entities that we're all a part of.
Excellent. And then last but not least, we are, with Meg's retirement, we're very sad to lose Meg, but pivoting and trying to explore what this can mean for our staff moving forward. In our last board meeting, we discussed the creation of a new engagement coordinator position. We have been interviewing some stellar candidates for that role. We have more interviews this week, and we are hoping to extend an offer and have someone begin mid-July. So if there's any questions about that, happy to talk about it, but wanted to just give you a quick update on how that process was going.
Okay. Questions on that? Thank you both, and really the resources have been excellent. Okay, we'll move on to advocacy report, but I want to know who you're not minutes. I understand.
No, I'm flabbergasted.
I know you've never done this.
Presidential city for the win.
Okay, well, we will turn our time over to a combination of Justin, Jared, and to talk about our advocacy report, and I'm sure that we'll have chiming in from others as well.
Yep. Jared, let's have you start out.
Alexa, Molly, and Cassidy are a lot more pleasant than I am, so this is what you get. Last board meeting, we had discussed the amicus brief and the request from Salt Lake City to have the league join on. There have been quite a few different requests throughout the years. Some we have signed on to, some we have not signed on to, whether that be because of process, the timelines of the filing dates. And so as you may remember, we signed on to the main case that talked about governmental immunity in the past, and so we've got this request like I brought up last time. The question that the appellate court is considering is whether cities can use spend impact fees collected under one impact fee facility plan for projects that were only included under a later amended plan. And so last board meeting, the request was bring back UAC, was going to be filing an amicus brief. Bring back UAC's brief and we'll review it and decide in this board meeting whether we want to sign on to that brief or not. We recently found out that UAC is no longer going to be filing a brief independently. After surveying their members, they found that it was we only had a few members that were concerned about the policy issues. I'm not sure whether they will be signing on to the other amicus briefs, but that's kind of where that was a recent development that happened. We found out about, and so we immediately reached out to both IMLA, which is the International Municipal Lawyers Association, who will be filing an amicus brief that we found out about, and also Provo City. So those are the outstanding amicus briefs that if the board decides to sign on, they would need to, it would be one of those two. The IMLA brief discusses a few items, primarily responding to another amicus brief on the other side. Provo City, their brief is really in two different areas. One is a technical analysis of the Impact Act, and then the other is a discussion of reimbursements on impact fees if a negative decision came down from the court. So those are the outstanding briefs. Both of them are still in draft form, given various circumstances that are being dealt with in Provo City, some illnesses, medical issues that have delayed the amicus brief from getting to a final form. And so right now, we don't have those final form amicus briefs for you. And so right now, the deadline to file for Salt Lake City's principal brief is on July 7th. The amicus briefs have to be filed 7 days after the principal brief is filed with the court. If that's before, then we would have even less time. So if Salt Lake City files it on July 7th, we'd have till July 14th to decide whether or not to file the amicus brief. So that is the current status of where we're at. And the issues that, and I believe the board members have been given the Salt Lake City's brief of what they intend to file. If you've had a chance to read it, it's a technical argument based upon the interpretation of the Impact Fee Act. And so that's kind of where we're at. The process is frankly late in the game. We don't have those amicus briefs to give to you right now in their form that for the board.
So in terms of any indication from the board on direction or support for different approaches with the different amicus briefs that are out there, do you need us to do that, or more just informational report?
Well, this would be the last board meeting because there's no board meeting in July. So I think a decision, at least for us, needs to be made. The other possibility is if the board decides to give the executive board the ability to file on without having another board meeting. I think that they, under the policy, have that ability, but again, we're running up against a July 14th deadline to join an amicus.
Didn't we already make a decision on that?
No, the board wanted us to come back with the UAC brief but they are no longer going to be filing that brief.
If I might, Jared's doing a great job looking at the options, but the sort of playfield keeps getting shifted on this issue in the sense that it started off as a broad policy debate. It's really turned into a really high technical discussion down to something like I would argue now. And it doesn't mean that it's not an important issue for them, but in terms of the sweeping issue, I would say broader policy, that's sort of, at least for me, that's sort of changed.
So so Roger brings up a good point. The court, the reason it's a technical argument by Salt Lake City is because that was the decision that was made by the lower court. So they're responding to the lower court's decision because that's all they can respond to. And so I would be making the exact same arguments based upon the. So, yeah.
But in terms of a broader issue that affects all cities, in terms of a broader policy, this case isn't that now.
So, Jared, where we're at right now with the different briefs or lack of briefs, amicuses or MSI, whatever it is, what do we need from the board right now then?
I read what you said, but I have no idea what it said.
Decision of whether the board wants to join one of the other amicus briefs.
That we don't have yet.
We don't have yet.
So remind us, it was Provo?
Provo City and IMLA, which is the International Municipal Lawyers Association.
So may I ask, is that because they're looking at the broader effect of how impact fees are described, and does the Salt Lake City case, if it's decided one way versus another, would that have an adverse effect on future judgments, or how would that affect a larger, broader group of cities?
The answer to your first question with IMLA is they are primarily responding to another amicus that's already been filed on the other side. So someone on the other side filed an amicus, and they aren't necessarily the issues that were brought up in the other amicus is what they are responding to. It's not the underlying brief of Salt Lake City or the opposing party. So that's EMLA's brief. The other question that you had is, what are the ramifications if there is a negative ruling against Salt Lake City? We're not quite sure where or how many other cities use impact fees for projects that were only included in a subsequent impact fee facilities plan. We don't have that information.
So Jared, it sounds like IMLA is maybe not the right fit for us.
No.
So we should probably maybe take that off the list of consideration. So it's Provo.
You have to have a brief, so it's really the Provo brief is what's left. So, yeah, go ahead.
Is this a possibility? I mean, it's very difficult to sign on to something we don't have, especially given the legal and technical nature, and even though I'm sure have great faith in Provo's legal team. Would it be possible for us to make this something that we delegate to advice from Jared back to the executive committee to make a determination around? I'm sure this is going to fall like right in the thick of everyone's 250 events.
Yeah, because timing-wise, that is the thing. It's likely to fall in the middle of July, is what we're saying, right? Before we meet again. So yeah, I think that is basically what we're asking: is should we delegate some authority to the executive officers to make a determination once we have something to make a determination on?
It does seem like to me. It would just seem like a little iffy to vote to join Provo's when we don't know what it says yet. I mean, like, what if it said something about like cougars?
I move we join.
I'm supportive of the principle, the Cougars also, but supportive of the principle to delegate authority to participate in litigation pending we have information, and delegate that to the executive council, and we can format that as a motion.
I'll second that and add, I think that we sign on is probably a fairly important detail. And I'll call it an amicus brief, just to add another premise.
Love it.
I think it's important that we sign on if we can in some way. So if we can do that, as Councilmember Egbert suggested, I support that as well.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a motion to do that delegation and review consideration from Seth Perrins and a second from Councilmember Egbert.
Vice versa.
First, I have a motion from Councilmember Egbert and a second from our city manager, Seth Perrins. One of these days we're going to change his name tag too, so it's not. Is there any additional discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Jerry, sounds like you've got your marching orders there.
Perfect. All right, let's talk about a couple things here. One, really quick on the advisory groups. We talked about this at the last board meeting in a mid-year. One, just want to make you aware that we do have a housing meeting coming up a week from today. We have an economic development one coming up this Thursday. On the housing one of the things we had talked about is that we'd like to have board members a part of all the advisory groups, so that when we get to session, you'll have the background on things, can step up if we need you on different things. Good news is, on the ones that are coming up, we do have board members involved in all of them. On housing and land use, we have most of you involved in that one, so along with 124 of your friends who are part of that email list, so no shortage of people on that one. Economic development, we have board members involved in that one. Bill boards, we have Amy Shumway, so we have board member involved in that one. And we will have more coming. So these groups later on, PIDs, impact fees, property tax, water, we're waiting for a few more things to clarify on them. We're going to talk a little bit about impact fees during economic development anyway. But is there anything that we're missing, basically giving the opportunity now to say, man, there's a group we really need around whatever it is that we're not thinking of. And we want to ask you now so we don't get to November and say, man, you know what we really wish we would have spent the summer on is, X problem. So one, planning the question, if there is nothing, that's fine. But if you think of another group, another issue that we should be jumping on top of sooner than later, please let us know. There are always the things we have to respond to when we get to session. There are issues we don't always see coming or bills that are protected for the whole time, but we want to get ahead of whatever we can. So if there's something that's missing, or if there's a group that you have not volunteered to be a part of but really want to be a part of, let me know. That's a quick ask on that one.
Nobody's talking about it, but maybe data centers?
Yeah, data centers does not come up at all. Data centers will come up. If you look at the draft agenda, I think, which is, you can scroll down, Nick, draft agenda we have on economic development, that is one of the things we have on there. There are not every group, but a lot of different groups and entities are building out different discussion points around data centers. So we'll certainly try to wrangle some of that and be a part of those discussions.
I think the real problem is they've got 1 billion acres of it in one county, but everybody's got them in their counties across the states. So
there are many more data centers than just the one up in Box Elder that are coming online.
I'm afraid the information from that one may affect all of us.
We know, so one of the things I'll mention there is the Central Valley Water Conservancy District, for example, is putting together some FAQs and some information around questions you should ask if a data center is proposed in your area, just from the water perspective, just one of the things that comes up a lot. So as we get these resources and as we see these coming from other entities, other people with expertise, we'll try to promulgate those out. And then I would imagine at some point we will either have a webinar or trainings at annual or whatever it is that deal with some of that as well.
Well, I find it interesting that some people think that the communities that have those have not asked those questions and taken that into account.
Yes, as if no one's thinking about that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Cam, go ahead.
Just jumping on the economic development piece first, and the housing piece second. These advisory subgroups, we've got a tremendous number of volunteers and people who want to participate in them, which is great. The reason we put the draft agendas in here is they're still draft. Like, even from the time we finished the packet on Thursday till now, we've made some adjustments to them. The Economic Development Council, which the board appointed me to represent the league on, will have its first official meeting on July 1st. The political subdivisions interim committee that's studying tax increment financing had our first organizing meeting at the end of May. Vote is not scheduled to meet again until August because we're waiting for some data to come in. So part of our objective in this first economic development advisory subgroup meeting is just to make sure that people in the room know the universe. You'll see we've listed our existing policy on economic development, so policy resolutions that we've adopted in the past. I'll have a lot more after that July 1st meeting for us to consider. And Justin and I were at interim last week, and I think it's fair to say every committee at the Capitol talked about data centers at some point.
Every committee is a data center committee now.
Every committee is a data center committee. On the housing side, Nick, can you slide up to the housing one? One thing we noticed as we were going through our existing policy resolutions and league board principles is that we actually don't have anything specific on impact fees. Now, we've taken positions on impact fees legislation for years, and we have our general board principles on housing around affordable home ownership, sustainable infrastructure, and quality of life. In terms of our key principles on impact fees, the resolutions that our members have endorsed in years past have been silent on impact fees. So that's one thing we plan to talk about with the advisory group is putting together the core principles on impact fees that we can bring back to the board to endorse while we're awaiting the legislative audit on impact fees. And our sources have told us that that audit is unlikely to go public earlier than October. So it'll be October, maybe even November, which means you could have this big audit with lots of considerations coming out of it. Senator Musselman has already said he wants to pull together a work group, and we've already volunteered league staff to always be part of the work group. And there will be a bunch of meetings after that audit. So October, November, December. So that now is a good time to make sure we're all aligned on those core principles around impact fees. There's also going to be a lot of discussion about independent centers and the alignment between state funding and local land use. So those aren't spelled out in this subgroup, but those were part of the discussions I had just last week.
On impact fees, the state already requires that we have an independent firm give us a, what's the word, consultant on it. And we take those, and West Jordan, for like other cities or like West Jordan, the rates that we get from them that we are able to charge for impact fees, we don't. We charge much less than that. If they push this, is that going to end up changing it and making it so that we charge what the consultant says we can charge for impact fees? And are they going to kind of blow up and make it go backwards, what they're trying to accomplish, instead of just researching and knowing and look at what they've already asked us to do and see that we are actually playing the game the right way?
I'm going to answer that question in light of what happened in the political subdivisions in last week. And then Justin and Jared and others who talked with the auditors, you're welcome to chime in as well based on the conversations you've had with legislative auditors. In the House, in the political subdivisions interim committee last week, which is a joint committee of House and Senate members, Representative Ray Ward presented an idea on impact fees. And it was purely that, just an idea. No legislation yet, so we don't take positions on ideas or formal positions. But I got up to testify afterward to explain the legal framework of impact fees. And I thought it was important for the committee to understand the ins and outs of impact fees under current state law. Then Chris Campoulis of Ivory Homes got up afterward. And Chris and I were pretty united in explaining what the legal framework was.
Which enjoy for just a moment, because that is not happening.
I was going to say, is it the same, Chris?
Yeah, no, it was great.
It's early interim still. We have lots of time.
But Chris and I were both trying to make the same point. Like, this is the legal framework that we all accept and understand. And the legislators on the committee were asking really good questions about the balance of current residents paying for growth versus new residents paying for growth, and how much are impact fees based on a reasonable analysis and a reasonableness standard? Are they meeting the Nolan-Dolan exaction? Senator Musselman's on that committee. He said, I've got this work group, and I spent a lot of time over the last year. He pulled his bill back last session that was focused on impact fees, in part to allow this space to occur with the impact fee audit. So he said, as soon as that audit is done, I'm going to pull my group back together, and we'll get back to work on it. So it was actually a very sophisticated discussion in that committee. And I think right now everybody's in a bit of a holding pattern until we see what comes out of the audit. And I think there's an acknowledgement from someone like Chris on the private side that most cities are doing it right, checking the boxes and following the process that's spelled out. And I think one of the questions that the audit's going to look at is, do we have the right process? And that gets to the role of the consultants and everything else. Those are some of the themes that have come up in our conversations thus far. Just anything else you want to add from?
The only thing I'll add to that is, yeah, the role of consultants is something the auditors are looking at, both the recommendations they make and then some of what, and I don't know what the audit will say to this effect or not, but some of the idea that the consultants, some people feel like they have an incentive to suggest impact fees because that is their business. And so if you make a procedure for them to do it, then that creates businesses for them to come in and do it. And there's not that many of them around. So the number of consultants that are out there is a function of the market. But I don't know what it's going to look like, but they've certainly been having discussions around those and talking to those consultants. So I guess in answer to your ultimate question, I'll be shocked if the recommendation comes back and says you have to go with what the consultant says and nothing lower.
I want to make sure everyone understands too what type of an audit we're talking about, just because often when you say the word audit, people think you're doing a financial review audit.
Like a forensic audit or something, yeah.
Standards and things like that. Just to be clear, this is an audit by the Office of
Legislative Auditor General.
Legislative Auditor General's office. And while they will sometimes look at how money is being spent and did it comport with the requirements for how money is being spent, they're actually looking more at policy and process. Often when they do an audit, a legislative audit versus the state auditor's office type of audit, they are looking at it in terms of them driving bills that will result from their audit. So it's just a different type of audit than you might be used to seeing when you have an entity that comes to present your annual audit as a city. This is very much an audit about policy, not about necessarily whether the money was spent and whether there was a corresponding ledger entry that reported with that.
I think the last thing maybe on this one, because we do have other things we need to talk about, is coming out of those OLAG, Office of Legislative Auditor General audits, they will always put recommendations in their audits. It's not just, here's some stuff you should know. They will say, we have recommendation 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 80% of the time those turn into bills. If they put an audit recommendation, some legislator will grab that and they will put something in there. So that's when we say we have to wait for the audit to come out, because that will very much inform the discussion that comes out of it.
I would say on this one, I think my gut feeling is less an issue of compliance, that's more an issue of, for example, we use impact fees for residential property differently than we use them for other types of construction. Should you stratify the residential property? I see the debate being much more in that arena than complying with the law. Because I think the law's been litigated to death. It's there, it's being followed. The question is, what are the tangential issues other than, is that law working?
So again, impact fees will be part of our next Monday discussion. The advisory group will roll up our sleeves to talk through those principles. Last week I had several meetings around the governor's starter home initiative and the progress reports there. So that'll be part of this advisory group. We're still, at the LPC earlier this month, listed all the different ideas that were out there. We're not responding to every bad idea. We're waiting to see which ones are rumor and which ones are real. There's a lot of discussion about how to propel centers going forward. That was something we've pushed hard for the last couple of years, is how do we turbocharge the development of centers and the housing component therein. And then we also have generational legislation that Congress is considering on housing that will be worth doing a deeper dive on. Mayor Shepherd, can you take a quick moment, since you and I have been going back and forth on this, to just give an update on where things are at there? And then my last question for the board when Mayor Shepherd finishes is if there's anything else missing in either the economic development space or the housing space, you want to make sure it's on the radar for those two advisory groups, please let us know as we finalize those agendas in the next couple of days. Mayor Shepherd?
Sure, housing's going well. We've got the 21st Century Road to Housing Act that is, the Senate moved forward last week. They'll take their vote up early this week, today or tomorrow. It'll head over to the House. it moved out of the Senate on a 85-7 vote, I believe. So it will move forward. It'll move forward in the House. It's got consensus on both sides. That's the first major housing legislation that's come through in decades. So some great things in the bill. Looks like our senators are split on it. One will vote yes, one will vote no. But it looks like all of the members of the House will vote for it. So that will be good. We continue to meet with America's Housing Comeback and head back to Louisville week after next. So
thank you, Mayor Shepherd, for your service with the National League of Cities Board. I know that means a lot of travel for you back and forth, so we appreciate your willingness to engage and make sure that we have some solid representation from Utah.
All right, Nick, I think let's jump to the discussion on LPC if you want to pull up my slides.
I have a quick question for you. Leave this start.
Yeah.
So everyone that served on the property tax group, are they automatically voluntold?
Everyone's pulled over, yeah.
Automatically voluntold,
Yes.
okay.
You're all voluntold.
I enjoyed that. I know my city manager, Gary Hill, enjoyed that tremendously, and so do many others.
Is that a word he would use?
I don't know. Gary is nodding his head. Gary is sort of the author of the impact statement, so.
Oh, does Gary want that public?
But I think it also demonstrates how valuable these advisory groups have been. Yeah. Created them. So I appreciate everybody's service on it. You'll notice homelessness is not listed here because it's a separate own work group.
Yes.
Alternate Mitigation Task Force with the November 1st deadline. That also has its first meeting this week. So all of these groups are off and running now.
All right, so I want to spend a few minutes talking about LPC, but about how LPC is working. So these are the upcoming LPC meetings we have until January. We start having them a lot more frequently. We've got 4 of them the rest of the year. At this point, roughly 2/3, let me take you a picture of. Roughly 2/3 of LPC, like you have these slides. Roughly 2/3 of LPC attendees are attending online. I know some of you attend our LPC meetings online. So the first question I have before we get to some proposals is there anything that we can do for those of you who participate online or those of you who participate in the room and are really missing out on what the chat is saying online? Is there anything that we could do that would change the experience to make sure everybody, whether they're in person or online, is having a good LPC experience? Anything that, for those who have joined online or those who are in the room that you feel like could be done differently?
I think that's a real good question because sometimes the chats will show up and I'll start reading them, then you take them off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a separate monitor just for the chats? I think I'd love to.
Separate chats.
That's like all of my internal thoughts being written out. I don't want to read those.
Well, and it is, frankly, it's a fascinating thing because in the room you can, turn to someone right next to you and say something snarky. But in a chat room, people just type them out, and there are people who sort of take over the chat.
I can't believe it. I have wanted to see the chat. Like, we'll listen at the level to get to see what's going on. It's almost like you have to have the computer going on when you're in.
Right.
But I do want to know what they're talking about usually. And sometimes we've almost had votes, and I know Carson and Cassie were able to see those, but the rest of us won't, right?
It does seem like we sometimes have two
meetings.
we have 2 LPC
We do.
meetings. And I joined our June LPC meeting from vacation.
She was so serious.
I had so much fun in the chat because I'm often in the room. So I got to visit the chat.
Okay, so
I would say yes, we're having 2 different meetings.
so chat visibility is something that I hear people would actually like to see, whether you're in the room or not.
They have a good time.
Seth is unsure.
Everyone but Seth.
So actually, maybe chat visibility would make the chat even more productive. Like, snarky's good, and snarky Seth comes out playing. But I don't know how much we want that chat to be a part of the public record.
But it's their choice. It's
Right, but I mean, so if there's more visibility on that, then maybe I'm going to be a little bit more reserved.
You may be more circumspect in what you put if it's going to be up on the screen.
Comes out.
There's great
Might be more productive conversation if they know it's part of the record and not this off.
There's often good questions in the chat too.
Fantastic
questions. Or feedback
There are.
about, hey, my city's doing X, Y, Z. And it doesn't make it into the broader narrative because the voices in the room are kind of the dominant.
Right.
Now, I mean, attending LPC in person has been, I think, incredibly valuable for me in getting to know people across the state and learning more about people's cities and experiences and the unstructured connection that you end up making in an in-person meeting. But the reality is it's really far. I mean, we have board members that travel quite far to be here today, and I really appreciate that. But I also want to respect that it's going to complaints to be here. That's just not always possible when you also have duties and responsibilities to your city and your job. So,
well, and again, I know like it is really 2/3 that are attending online. We have more people online than in person at this point. And I agree, there are somewhat two different meetings. I do think like Carson and Cassidy do a great job responding to questions in the text or in the thread in the chat. But yeah, if you're in the room, you're not necessarily getting the response or knowing that the question was even asked. Now, I also think they do a really good job aggregating questions and letting us know, hey, we're getting this question a bunch, we need to respond in the room. But that's helpful with that one. Any other thoughts? We know voting, we have not had to take a close LPC vote in a couple of years. But with that number of people online, we know, and we're a little bit scared of when we do have to take a vote. That is going to be a little bit funky. And so, yeah, we have talked about what we need to do to figure out whether you're in the room or in person, some kind of system that everyone logs onto and votes the same. We know that's a thing that we need to deal with. We've just been awful lucky, and we were really close to this last one. That last LPC where we thought we were going to have to take a vote, we didn't quite get there.
I think that ability to take a vote the same way would be helpful. And like you say, I think it's just a matter of time. If it's, was it this session or it's not the next one, it's not one too far away. So exploring that option of some kind of singular vote, I think is a great idea.
is there a way using Slido? I mean, because we've I hope that we've bought stuff.
Carson jumping up here.
We've really used that as a really great tool to help us. And I think that's been an amazing way to take the two rooms and make it one, is actually Slido. I think that's been
yes, that has helped a lot.
That has helped so that you can see how all cities are viewing an issue is to use Slido. But is there a way to make sure that we take the LPC representatives of each city, verify them with Slido? Because some Slidos we want the whole room, and some Slidos we need just the voting number. So is there a way to make that our official voting method?
Yeah, so we've looked at a couple different options here, and we would love to have a voting software. We actually piloted one during COVID with some degrees of success, but it was clunky for a lot of people, so we kind of phased out away from that. And likewise, it required everybody to keep their phones or devices on that web page constantly, and if they were disconnected from a free public Wi-Fi source like we often use at the Capitol, which was common, then they would lose access to the vote and sometimes would be locked out. So we've looked at a lot of different platforms, and there's some different challenges we have because we need a platform that would let us modify questions in real time. With those contentious votes, we frequently have amended motions, and we might be voting on layers of motions, and so we need a tool that can be adaptable. We need a tool that allows us to verify who's voting. So one thing we've done in the last couple of years is we've moved the online voting registration from people filling out the sheets of paper to people signing in on Qualtrics, so that we can more readily, if somebody casts a vote online or in the room, we can more readily identify who they are and make sure they are an eligible voting member. So that's been, we haven't had to test it yet, but that's been really helpful in getting ready for that scenario. We've looked at a couple different things there. The challenge with we've tried to delineate Slido as sort of opinion polling, so we've never said only LPC members can fill this out. We've wanted to sometimes get a broader, like you may have 10 planners in the room who have expertise on a land use issue, but are not necessarily their city's LPC voting members, and we sometimes want to be able to identify their opinion, take that into account. So we've used Slido as sort of the catch-all. One thing we do, Mayor, is after the meetings, we can't really do this in real time because the way the data stream works, they don't have an API. So after the meetings, we'll export all the responses. One of the reasons we ask for people's names is just so that we can kind of do this tally, and we have a script that'll just run through and identify everybody who's an LPC member, who's a board member. That's really the only, we'll have like city classification, some of those high levels of detail, and we'll break out results that way. We just can't do that in real time during the meeting. But that does inform how we report back to you as the board and our own team internally. So we're still trying to crack the nut of finding a tool that has all those three sort of characteristics. And if anybody knows them, then I'd be all ears. There's a lot that do some combination of those things, but I've yet to find one that does all of them. We've even had some conversations internally, Cassidy and I, of just trying to like homebrew a system that we could just use. And I don't know that we don't really probably have the bandwidth right now to develop that ourselves, but it's something we could explore.
Okay. Any other feedback on how to take 2 rooms, 2 different meetings, and make them more productive as one?
And with that, I think, oh yeah, Nick's there. I'm like, Nick disappeared. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. I want to talk about a proposal. If we go. All right, so some of you will remember this slide. I just want to bring it back because it's epic. Street Fighter, if anyone was aware, video game where you travel around the world and you battle different opponents in different parts of the world. They don't just battle in one venue. So like I said, 2/3 of our attendees are online now. 1/3 are in person, and I'm not talking about during session. During session, we're going to be where we're going to be no matter what, for anyone who's watching where this is about to go. But outside of session during the interim, let's get the next slide, Nick. What if we started traveling legislative policy committee around the state, acknowledging that we already have a lot of people online. We just have maybe different people in the room and different people on the line if we traveled it around during the interim. So if you want to get the next slide, Nick. So you saw the earlier slide where everything was at the trust and Zoom, and this is for illustrative purposes only. I'm not saying this is where we're going to go. But what if in August we went to somewhere in Cache Valley and had it on Zoom? And so the people in northern Utah get to come in person and be a part of LPC in person and have a different discussion than what we normally get. And maybe we go to Vernal in September and Provo in October and Santa Clara in November. It's on my slide.
I love it.
So thoughts about pros and cons about traveling LPC around the state. I'll tell you the impetus for this is last LPC meeting at the Trust that we just had a few weeks ago. I looked around the room and I said, you know, there's 75 people in this room. And again, we had more than that by a long shot online. And the people in the room were pretty representative of Davis County, a little bit in northern Salt Lake County, and then the numbers started peeling off a little bit. Some of you drove, and appreciate the people who make the drive. But geography-wise, we are getting the people in the room a pretty consistent crowd, but also geographically a pretty small crowd. And so we're having 2 different meetings, and my concern as someone who's getting your feedback is I'm getting feedback from kind of the same people all the time and missing feedback we might get otherwise. So you can see I'm obviously pushing in favor of this, but I want to hear from your perspective, pros and cons if we were to travel LPC around and not just hold it at the Trust, only during interim. We're not traveling around during session, that's not an option, but during interim.
I love it. I love it. Cost to staff is a concern. There's going to be a hotel in Santa Clara. I think that we just need to be cognizant of that. But I love it. I think you're right. I think we've got to make something more significant.
The city would provide hotels.
Yeah, Mayor.
What would be the consequence if you did it entirely on Zoom, except for the people that were running the meeting? That was something Roger.
I'd miss lunch.
You would miss the lunch with multiple salads, and I know. No, we have talked about doing all online on meetings, but we do think there is, for those who are in the room, there is, like Mayor Bradshaw said, some benefit, and not just some, quite a bit of benefit to, meeting your colleagues, getting to know them, having those discussions. There's also some very real benefits when we get legislators in a room to come and have that discussion with people in person. I think makes an impact.
Can you couple it with some training where you'd be going out to these venues anyway?
Bingo.
Like you can get a bigger bang for your buck. I love this.
And yes, that is one of the things exactly we were talking about. If we go somewhere, we've come down and we've done a lot of traveling. Mayor Palmer mentioned this earlier, where we'll go out and do a meeting with whomever in an area, do a lunch, do a dinner. Yeah, if we did an LPC and then we cut off everybody online, and if you're in the room, yeah, we rolled it over to a different meeting there, which we could get with people there. I think if there's an opportunity going back to legislators, if we show up in Richfield, I think I can get Carl Albrecht to show up. He may not show up to any other LPC, but I bet I could get him if we're down in that neck of the woods. And there's some benefit to that potentially.
I love it for engagement all over the state with legislators, with the members.
Is there a way you can do it based on maybe what the topic is? Like, is it more relevant to the place that you're going?
I think that's actually, I really like that idea. The trick, I think, is I think we need to do some advanced planning, and it would be tricky to say, this new thing dropped this month. Hey, do you happen to have somewhere available in Park City we can bring everyone to? So I think we'd have to do a little bit of planning that way. There's a great pizza place in.
It's 100. Come on in.
But to Tana's point, I mean, you could ahead of time. We're going to be in Cache Valley, and of the issues going on here, one is X. So we are going to take 15 minutes to talk about this topic there.
Sure.
And I think that could be really helpful, and that might encourage people to join from Cache Valley that maybe don't even join the online stuff. I think what this potentially can do for us is make even more people participate in our LGC process, which I think is good. Love it.
The other idea I would have too is, so Park City does these tours around all of the ski towns in the Intermountain West, so we can learn more about like what's going on in towns that are relevant to us. So we just got back from Breckenridge and Vail. And so maybe if you're in these specific cities and they have something new that they just, like maybe they have a new rec center, they have a new something and they want to showcase it, maybe there's like a field trip or there's something that goes along with their city so you can learn a little bit while you're there. Or like just they have the opportunity like Bountiful did today. I was like, maybe I should have come down a mountain bike before you.
I thought about inviting you all to mountain
But I was
bike.
thinking about like,
mountain bike.
you know, I've actually, I hate to say this, I've like never been Bountiful's Main Street or anything like I'm super new to
We
like,
should go right now.
to Bountiful, so I'm like, where can I get coffee after this? But I'm just thinking like, how do I get to know your cities better if I don't travel to that place?
One thing I think would be a challenge is just communication. There is a group that has gotten used to just being like, it's LPC, I'm going to the trust, autopilot. So we really have to ramp up some advanced planning, especially for those on the Wasatch Front that have been, you know, able to easily drive to be like, all right, I'm going to need to really be thinking about how I'm, you know, blocking a chunk of the day to get down to Vernal, or it might be an overnight if I'm heading down to Santa Clara. So we need to think about it kind of anew.
Yes, the communication wouldn't just be autopilot for sure. Yeah, LPC, you know what you're doing. It's this day. I agree.
Around in November, can we do the November one like later so I can make it?
We have some biking trails.
That's right. It's a good time to be there.
Yeah,
so yeah, these dates are all actually set for LPCs, but yeah, the locations are all not.
No, I like the idea. I think back to your point that we've always been keeping it at the trust, and it is the same group, and probably hasn't for a number of years. To allow other people to join, and then just like you have, when you go down to the convention in St. George, we've got a lot of conversation going on for people who don't come up north for the annual. And it's kind of nice to, you know, have that conversation for people.
I don't know how often, but every so often, UDOT takes their board meetings on the road and their transportation board meeting. And we've hosted them twice in the last 10 years or so not that common. But you know, if you had 6 or 8 locations a year, next year to not use those same 6 or 8, generally yes, but specifically no. There's a little bit of civic pride that comes that when I can showcase Bountiful or my town or whatever. I think that also there's something to that that the respective cities may get that allows them to be prideful of their community for a while.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, Davis County will be a little bit sad. I'm looking over at Morris, Shumway.
We'll just have to carpool and have a good time.
That's right.
Maybe we'll have some unstructured hangout time carpooling because it's been great.
We will put together some carpools. Yeah.
And Mayor Shepherd.
And as a Davis County resident, I will say it is great at the trust because it cuts my commute time way down after as I drive through the land of
Sounds
Bountiful.
like you have some thumbs up to see what you can come up with.
Okay, yeah, we'll put some thought into this, but yeah, appreciate the feedback. If there's anything else, and obviously as we try this out, and as always, give us feedback as we try this out, see what things look like. But if something hits you next time we're in LPC that says, yeah, this would just help with the online versus in-person thing, or you as staff, it would help if you would X, whatever it is, just let us know. it's a good problem to have that we have so much participation, but we have changed just in the 5 years that I've been here from some online with, a lot in the room, and it has just slowly shifted. Year by year, it's changed over, so we want to make sure we're getting the best experience for everybody out of it.
I think I think maybe why some people feel more comfortable attending online is because of the Slido engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're capturing a lot of feedback through Slido. It used to be that you had to be in the room to make sure that if you felt strongly about an issue, that kind of made it into the record. So I think continued use, whether we get to Carson developing his own real-time voting, amending motion, broad software thing, I don't know, but they're like, Slido has been, I think, a really good ad for our engagement.
And then the last thing I think to Mayor Palmer's point about staff costs, I looked down at Nick on this one, but budget-wise, we have funds in the travel budget that we wouldn't be in a bad place with that. Yep.
All right. We've made it, I think, to the end of the advocacy report. Am I wrong?
Correct.
Okay.
So here's just the last ask then for everybody. One, you see what the advisory groups are that we put together. Some are starting to meet, some will meet later this year. So if there's any other issue out there that you've heard from your city colleagues, please make sure it's on our radar. We still have a list of a bunch of individual topics that have come in that we're working through. These are the big ticket ones. Second, with the housing, economic development, homelessness, they're getting underway in the next few days. So if there are topics you want to make sure are on the radar for those specific ones, let us know. And then third, we'll start building out a proposal here to take LPC on the road and try to address the two meeting issue. I will say, I realize we're over time. I think it's important for folks to know. When I talk to my fellow state league directors around the country and tell them how many of our cities are engaged in LPC and in the advocacy process, their response is usually, what? You have a meeting every week with hundreds of your people? As a lot of them try to go the other way. They're like, we're handling our business at the Capitol, and then we'll let you know what's happening. And we've taken the strength of the league as the membership approach. So it's awesome to go in the 5 years that Justin's been here, where we basically doubled our regular LPC attendance. So it's a good problem to have, and thank you for the feedback today.
I remember a time we begged you to
Well, Roger, there's only 15 in the state then, though. So.
That's right.
NLC. And NLC. Other business.
That
was
only
okay.
other business I was at the time.
Great.
Could you just mention something about fire restrictions? Yeah. Really quickly.
Yes, feels like every time you turn around, there's another fire, and that's acute in Juab County right now with the town of Eureka under evacuation yesterday. Feels like every other canyon in Salt Lake City has faced a fire so far. So in Friday Facts, what?
Farmington had one yesterday.
No.
We did have one yesterday? Along the freeway, right?
Yeah, right by the freeway, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know. I know because my brother lives in that subdivision.
But it's hard to keep track of which smoke is coming from which fire.
West Jordan had one this morning, I remember.
Right. So it's a tinderbox out there. So we put a reminder in Friday Facts this past Friday, coming into fireworks season, of the steps that you need to follow as a community if you're going to ban the discharge of fireworks or anything else that can cause fires. So one ask we have for you going forward is, just as you're working through that law over the next few weeks, if there are issues that arise, let us know, because that easily can work its way into our advocacy efforts at the Capitol. In the short term, though, Mayor, are there any specific questions from you or from others about what the process is that you have to go through? We're a couple weeks out. The conditions are getting worse by the day. Any specific questions on the step-by-step process?
Is that it would be recommended that municipalities across the board do that, I think, right?
I think the key is the hazardous environmental conditions. And you as a community, whether it's Manti, Bountiful, or anywhere in between, make that finding in consultation with your fire marshal, make that finding that the environmental hazardous conditions exist. And we spelled out in code several years ago. We worked on legislation to provide more detail of what that meant. So it now includes, for example, dry grass. It did not include dry grass prior to that change. So there are multiple things you can look at, and then you look at your wildland urban interface, which in the case of Park City is basically citywide, right? The entire city is the wildland urban interface. Well, that's not necessarily the case in West Jordan. West Jordan, there's a portion of the city that's wildland urban interface, but the majority of the city isn't. So your findings need to be individualized in consultation with your fire marshal, and then you can make the determination of whether or not to ban discharge and then where you ban discharge. And that could change between the 4th and the 24th.
Can I tell you something really cool that we have now? A couple of our firehouses have the drones that are going up to spot fires out in the like fly around to spot it before anything comes, and then immediately sends it to the fire department. They've been doing this in Colorado, and we've already caught 3 fires that were not reported burns, like they could burn, but they hadn't reported them in. It could have spread really quickly. So we're trying to get really ahead of it with AI on how to go into the forests around.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Let's add that to the list for potential workshop or webinar.
That's cool.
It's really cool. They've done it. Yeah, it started in Austin.
One thing, I know I brought this site up a lot of times with Parent Fright, but drought.utah.gov, the state is doing a really good job aggregating everything around drought, from wildfires to snowpack to reservoir levels. So drought.utah.gov, it's, if you want to share it with your citizens or with others, but you can find a lot of good info and information on all of the drought-related stuff there.
Fire Info, their social media account is great if you happen to have fire in your community and residents want to know where to go for kind of updates and information, especially if it's not necessarily something you're actively thinking about evacuation, things like that. But Fire Info is a state account on social media that has great real-time, reliable updates. Cameron needed to mention our dates for our next meeting.
Yes.
What do you want to tell us?
So right now, you have calendar invites for the following 3 dates. This is the last 3 meetings of this current board. They were scheduled initially at 9:30 a.m. because of the possibility that we were doing the double board meeting with LPC at lunch. We ultimately only have one of those doubles, and that currently is Monday, September 21st, where we have board in the morning, LPC at lunch. The 17th and the 26th, because Monday the 26th overlaps with the convention, there is no LPC that week. And then in August, we decided to split up board and LPC since we weren't doing either meeting in July. So my quick question for this group is, do you want to keep these times at the same time? Would you prefer the case of the August and October meetings to move to the lunch hour so we can provide lunch? If you're already locked in with these times, that's fine too. But just in light of the changes we're going to propose to LPC, we needed to confirm these details too.
Okay, so you're going to.
So right now we have the double on September, so we'll work through that. Okay. But for purposes at least of Monday, August 17th, it will stay at 9:30 or shift to the lunch hour, because we will not be doing a double back to back.
Everyone check your calendars right now.
So where did you say the August 24th LPC was going to be?
We
To be determined.
You
We're
don't
going to
know,
work.
so
We're going to
then
work
that
on
board
plan.
meeting would change to that new location?
Not necessarily. No, we would still.
No, those are-
these board meetings have already been approved. It's just a matter of changing the times for the board meetings.
Oh, just the time.
Just the time.
Yep, we've
So
already
then
approved
September we have
board
both,
schedule.
Same thing.
not the other ones. Yeah, August separate.
So August, do you want to stay at 9:30 or move to the lunch hour, since there will not be LPC at lunch that day, because LPC will be the following week.
I will say, I've got them blocked in my calendar already, so.
Yeah, which is fine. If we want to just keep it since it's already in the calendars, that's fine.
But I want to mention this board meeting we've held in this location. Thank you. This is great, very comfortable, it's roomy, it's nice. No offense to the league conference room, but that is just too small inside. I would be happy to move all of our board meetings outside of that room and find a different location of our board meetings.
Well, Mayor, I think as part of what we're rethinking with LPC and others, I think we can take all that under consideration. Because right now we do 4 board meetings offsite. We do Presidential City, Local Officials Day, mid-year, and historically we've done annual, though at least right now we're not scheduled to be offsite there. Yeah.
I will say this, I thought the league staff did a great job on figuring out what they would need and how to make everything work. And the staff was happy to help, but it does involve them packing up shop and everything they might need and kind of hefting it somewhere. So if we were to take, yeah, if we were to take all of our meetings on the road, that might get to be kind of burdensome.
But happy to take it under advisement as part of this overall conversation. Engagement and advocacy and advocacy.
Unless you're proposing they're always in Bountiful, and then that's an awesome idea. My community is great.
That's true.
reached the end of our agenda. If there are no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion to
Second.
adjourn from Councilmember Edwards, we have a second from Mayor Palmer. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming up to Land Bountiful.
Thanks, everyone.